our past, they killed our present, and they killed our future, and they all walked away. And we weren't willing. I wasn't willing.
And Marla was your only child?
Yes, she is.
Which, I mean, that doesn't make her actual death any worse just because she was an only child, but it makes it worse for you and for Tom. And
the thing I want everyone to understand also is the pictures you're going to see in this brochure are the pictures I see in my brain every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see my daughter so brutally butchered. And I needed people to understand. I needed the lie to stop. I needed someone to care.
Well, I can tell you this, everybody sitting at this table and everybody in this room and everybody in this building cares. And, you know, I knew when we did this, and again, this is something that primarily Father Frank and Troy and I have talked about, that we would catch a lot of flack over this.
So be it.
And so be it. And people are going to attack Deborah for allowing this to happen.
Yeah. Mark, when we were talking with Deborah just yesterday, Deborah, remind us about the casket and the funeral, what you insisted on, because it's reminiscent of another fact of history.
Well, she was so disfigured, and the funeral director said, please, would you close this casket? And I said, no, I need people to see her as she is. And he was just distraught. He didn't understand why I would do it. And at the time, I think God has his hand on you at certain times, and at that time, his hand was just with me, and I wanted people to see what she looked like. I wanted them to be able to see what I see.
Well, to put this in historical context, I'll call on Brother Johnny, because I know what you're thinking.
Yes. You know, we met Emmett Till's mom, and
well, let's make sure people who know who Emmett Till was.
Well, he was a black fellow from Chicago that went down south and ended up getting killed. He wasn't just killed, he was beaten, he was brutalized.
Right.
And that was happening to a lot of blacks all over the nation. It was happening on a common basis if a black stepped out of line. And being out of line didn't mean too much. All you had to do was just do anything.
Well, in this particular case, this was a 16-year-old boy. He wasn't an adult man.
Right.
16-year-old boy, and they say that he was with another group of blacks who were outside a general store.
And they're trying to say he whistled or said something to a white lady that went by.
Right.
And that was enough. But he was beaten so bad, usually directors were always close to casket on that. And his mother said, no, I want to show what they did to my baby.
Right.
I want them to see it. And she held that open casket and people marched by, and all of a sudden, the civil rights movement took another whole turn. Because it wasn't just hearing anymore.
He was seeing it. It was the visual. And see, that's what I was thinking about when Deborah talked to me about doing this. Marla can become the Emmett Till of the pro-life movement.
That's right.
But we have to have the courage of our convictions and say, if you're going to do this, we're going to show it. That's what we have to say to the pro-aborts in this country, the people that do this. Say, you're not going to do this behind closed covers anymore, behind the closed curtains anymore. Just like what happened with Emmett Till. Like you said, finally it went from a philosophical argument and just a theoretical argument about what might be happening to you're seeing it. You can't deny what your own eyes are seeing.
It was just outright real now.
Right. And people can go online to this day and see pictures of Emmett Till.
Right.
And it's still horrible.
And you met his mother.
Yes. And in fact, when I met his mother, it happened to be in a place in Chicago. Let me tell you something odd about that day. Michelle Obama was in the same room when we met her.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
And his mother said, when she found out what we were doing, she said, listen, keep going. Oh, keep doing it. She encouraged us.
So she knew she was very pro-life.
Very pro-life. Very pro-life.
Yeah. But it's a difficult thing. This is going to be a difficult project to embark upon for all of us, because we're all going to promote this. You're going to promote it.
Right.
Johnny's going to, obviously, and we've got another event coming up in Los Angeles here related to the, well, we won't talk about it, but it's related to the NAACP, and you're going to be promoting it out there, and Father Frank is going to be, and Troy.
Yeah.
And we're all going to catch a lot of flack. And you know what? I'm going to predict right now, because I've been down this trail many times before. The worst things will be said about us will be said by fellow pro-lifers. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a given, Mark. But you know, the abortion industry has learned how to defend abortion, and that is to not talk about abortion.
Right.
Yes.
They do not talk about abortion. This flyer and Marla's life speak volumes about the abortion industry, and it's completely indefensible. This argument that Marla's life and her death and her autopsy photos will so stun the other side, the abortion cartel, into silence. It's completely indefensible.
Right.
And because the other side wants to talk about, you know, the rape exception or birth control pills or your in vitro fertilization.
Are babies with handicaps?
Sure, you know, they want to focus on the minuscule, the minutia, where abortions aren't really done. This is a sock to the nose, a knockout punch to the abortion cartel.
Right.
That's why we need to use it. That's why we go out on a limb and we take the flack, because we're not here, Mark, as you always say, just to fight abortion or to be pro-lifers. We're here to win this fight.
Right.
And it completes the picture, you know, as you said, Mark, we've been through a period now where we've been focusing on the woman, love them both. We don't just love the baby, love the woman equally. And the Silent No More Awareness campaign, which we've talked about frequently on Life Talk, gives voice to the testimonies of women who've been hurt. But those who've been killed can't speak unless their parents like Deborah speak out, unless we speak out. So Marla represents countless other women, and that's another dimension of this project, obviously, is that we're saying abortion kills women. It doesn't serve women, it kills them.
Yes.
And there are so many others whose parents would not be cooperative, whose pictures we do not have. As long as people understand that, yeah, this is about Marla, but it's about Marla because also many women have been buried without anybody noticing it, because safe and legal abortion killed them.
Right, and something that's interesting about this brochure and about the pictures that, and by the way, I want people to understand, none of these pictures were retouched other than we covered up some of the sensitive areas out of respect for Marla. There was no reason to put her out there. We're not making pornography here. But these are from the original. I have the actual slides from the coroner's office in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. These are from the original slides, unretouched. This is what death looks like. When you hear about a woman dying in an abortion clinic, she looked just like this. She laid up on a stainless steel coroner's table and they cut her open, and this is what she looks like. The biggest difference here, of all the autopsy pictures we've ever had here, generally what happens is the abortion begins, the abortion is completed, the baby is taken somewhere and put in a dumpster or put down a garbage disposal or ground up in a garbage disposal and sent down the sewer system, whatever. And then whatever caused, whatever injury was a result, then caused the woman to die, but the baby is long gone. In this particular case, this was an induction abortion where they put a urea solution inside her uterus to kill the baby. Anything you can put inside the woman's uterus to kill the baby can also kill the woman, which is what it did in this case. But the baby was still in her in the case of Marla. And that's why we have the actual photographs in this brochure of Marla's baby. And Deborah, you actually named your grandson.
Yes, I did. His name is Christopher Michael Cardamone. On the memorial stone for my daughter, we have her listed first and then Christopher Michael listed second.
Now, there was an interesting thing that happened I mean, this story, it's like a bad steak. The more you chew it, the bigger it gets, you know, and you asked for the baby to be buried in the same casket with the mother. Your grandchild, who was killed at the same time as his mother, you asked for them to be buried in the same casket, and you were told that they had discarded the baby as medical waste.
Right. They said that anything removed at an autopsy was just discarded as the coroner, as his discretion.
So he took this baby. He doesn't even have the humanity. He's sitting there working on a girl who has been killed in an abortion. He knows that this little girl has some parents somewhere. And here's the grandchild. And he can look at that picture that you see right here and say, that's just medical waste. That's where we've come as a culture. That's what happens. We talked about earlier. What happens is like the school shootings that we talked about. They happen not because of what's in people's hands, but because of what's in their hearts. That's the problem.
You know, and folks, just as information was withheld from Marla that could have changed her mind, her baby wasn't severely handicapped, I think this is intense information that needs to get in the hands of everyone who's contemplating an abortion, either now or sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Well,
Mark?
yes.
If I may go back to the coroner, we waited a whole month for results of her autopsy, and the coroner at the time took a look at my husband and I, and obviously sees that we're Catholics. And what he said to us is indicative of where we live in Pennsylvania. He said, I don't know why she died, but you go home and you try not to be ashamed of her. And at that particular minute, I was ashamed of the medical community. I was ashamed of the continual lies. And this is probably what started this whole process for me. This is a promise I made to Marla back then, and I keep it now, and I thank you for that.
You know, I think if obviously Tom was not in a position like most fathers, but I can't imagine many fathers would have somebody sit there and be that cold and callous and say, oh, you go home and just try not to be ashamed of your daughter. I think me and him would have been rolling around out in the parking lot before too long. It's mind-boggling when you think about it.
In my husband's words, he said that his accident was nothing compared to the death of his daughter, and that he understood now why God kept him in that wheelchair, because he did want to roll around in the parking lot with this man.
Right. Wow. What father wouldn't?
It's
Absolutely.
a natural reaction.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, like I said, Deborah, I wish that we weren't having this conversation. I'll be honest with you, this is a hard thing to say. I wish I'd never met you. Because if Marla was still around, I would never have met you probably.
Probably not.
But, you know, we're embarking on a project right now that I think is going to be gigantic. And I think she is going to be the Emmett Till of the pro-life movement. And this is something that we've been needing for a long time. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that you came to us and trusted us with this project. And that we're going to do the best we possibly can in getting this out as far as we possibly can. And all the people here are going to do that. And I'm asking the audience to help us do it. We need to hold this in front of the American people. We need to make the abortion industry explain this.
That's right.
And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I know the circumstances are horrible. They're horrible for all of us. But I'm promising you we're going to do our dead level best to make sure that Marla is not forgotten.
I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I knew I could trust you, and I thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
You know, that's this is the kind of garbage that you get into when you take on this effort.
This is something that I just want to recall for the audience something Deborah said to me. We did some interviews with her as well, and she said, you know, if you don't share it, if you don't speak up, you're part of the problem.
Right.
And I think that's what we're trying to say to the movement now. We're giving them a new tool. Don't let any kind of fear get in the way of sharing this, because if you don't share it now that you have this knowledge, you're just part of this ongoing problem, this holocaust of abortion.
That's right.
We must tell the truth no matter where it leads.
And no matter what the cost.
And no matter.
We don't count the cost. We just do what we're supposed to do. And, you know, we've internally here, I've had this discussion with Renee and others here in the office. And, you know, they say, well, aren't you concerned about, you know, how this is going to paint life dynamics? No, I'm not concerned about that. We don't count the cost. We do what we know is right, and we just let things fall where they may. That's all we can do.
This isn't paint on life dynamics. This is paint on the abortion industry.
That's right.
That's right.
And we've read too many autopsy reports. Too many women have died. Too many babies have died. 40 years is more than enough. It's time to end it.
Right. That's right.
The graphic picture says more than those 1,000 words. It's not safe.
Thank you.
Has no business being legal.
That's right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we've got for this month. So thanks for being with us. And always remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how this killing is going to stop. We'll see you in February.